The Kitty Genovese murder in Queens, New York, in 1964 is one of the most famous murder cases to come out of New York City and into the national spotlight. What propelled it wasn't the crime or the investigation, but the press coverage that alleged the murder had many witnesses who refused to come to the Kitty Genovese's defense. This has been disproved over time, but not before it became part of the accepted law of the crime. Kitty Genovese murder. Kitty Genovese was returning from work home at around 2:30 a.m. on March 13, 1964, when she was approached by a man with a knife. Genovese ran toward her apartment building front door, and the man grabbed her and stabbed her while she screamed. A neighbor, Robert Moser, yelled out his window, "Let that girl alone," causing the attacker to flee. Genovese, seriously injured, crawled to the rear of her apartment building, out of the view of any possible witnesses. 10 minutes later, her attacker returned, stabbed her, raped her, and stole her money. She was found by neighbor Sophia Farrar, who screamed for someone to call the police. Police arrived several minutes later. Genovese died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. The murder elicited a brief news item in the New York Times. Who was Kitty Genovese? Catherine Susan Kitty Genovese was born in Brooklyn, New York, on July 7, 1935, to parents Vincent and Rachel Genovese. The oldest of 5 children, Genovese was a graduate of Prospect Heights High School and remembered as a very good student and voted class cut-up in her senior year. Following her graduation in 1953, Genovese's mother witnessed a murder on the streets, which motivated the family to move to New Canaan, Connecticut. Kitty Genovese, however, remained in New York City, working as a secretary at an insurance company and working nights at Ev's 11th Hour, a bar in the Hollis neighborhood of Queens, first as a bartender, then as the manager, prompting her to move to Queens. A decade later, Genovese met her girlfriend, Mary Ann Zielonko, in a Greenwich Village nightclub. The two found a second-floor apartment together in Kew Gardens in Queens, considered a peaceful, safe area to live. The investigation. It was 4 a.m. when police knocked on the apartment door and informed Zielonko about the stabbing and Genovese's death. It wasn't until around 7 a.m. that Detective Mitchell Sang arrived to question Zielonko, who was being consoled with liquor by neighbor Carl Ross. Sang found Ross intrusive to the questioning and arrested him for disorderly conduct. Sang also knew that Genovese's body was discovered lying at the bottom of the stairs leading to Ross's apartment. Later, homicide detectives John Carroll and Jerry Burns arrived and grilled Zielonko on her relationship with Genovese. The questioning took an inappropriate turn, focusing on their sex life, and lasted for 6 hours. Much of the police questioning of neighbors revealed a preoccupation with the gay lifestyle. Zielonko was considered a suspect. Murder of Kitty Genovese solved. Later that week, police got a call about a suspected robbery. When police showed up, they found a television in the trunk of the suspect's car. The man, Winston Mosley, was arrested and taken to the station, where he confessed to stealing appliances dozens of times. Mosley drove a white Corvair, and this struck Detective John Tartaglia, who remembered that some witnesses to Genovese's murder had reported seeing a white car. This was mentioned to Mosley, who said nothing. Tartaglia called in detectives John Carroll and Mitchell Sang. They noticed scabs on Mosley's hands and accused him of killing Genovese. Mosley replied that he had and confirmed information that only the murderer would know. Winston Mosley. Mosley had spotted Genovese at a traffic light while he sat in his parked car and then followed her home. He had been driving around Queens looking for a victim, but gave no motive for the attack. Mosley was married with 3 children and had no prior record. Later interrogations would have Mosley confess to several other rapes and 2 other murders, those of Annie Mae Johnson and Barbara Kralik. Mosley was sentenced to death on June 15, 1964. It was reduced to a life sentence in 1967. He would later claim that a mobster executed Genovese and he was only the getaway driver. Mosley's son has stated that he believes Mosley attacked Genovese because she yelled racial slurs at him. Mosley died in jail on March 28, 2016, at 81 years old. New York Times. Coverage. On March 27, 1964, the New York Times ran an article titled 37 Who Saw Murder Didn't Call the Police, alleging that multiple neighbors heard or witnessed Genovese's murder but did nothing to help her. The report was prompted by a conversation between Times editor A.M. Rosenthal and Police Commissioner Michael Murphy, during which Murphy made the claim that was the basis for the article. The newspaper followed it up the next day with,